To order the June 26 board meeting of the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. Madam Secretary, if we could have a roll call to see if there's quorum.
Mr. Fernandez Guzman. Here. Mr. Ferre. Ms. Gutierrez. Mr. Avia.
I'm here.
Mr. Holland. Mr. Maloof. Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Pago. Mr. Sanabria.
Here.
Ms. Soler-McKinley.
Here.
Mr. Wortman.
Here.
Vice Chair Fano. Chair Lazarte.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
If we could have the Pledge of Allegiance done by Mr. Wortman, if you can lead us in that, sir.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Pago is making his way up the dais. Madam Attorney, if we could have the declaration of voting conflicts read into the record, please.
Board members, if any of you have any conflict relating to any of the action items on the agenda, if you would please note them for the record. None shown.
Mr. Director, are there any citizens' comments?
No, sir. There are none requested.
I would like to take before I'm going to take my chairman's comments. I'm going to try to do them now. I wanted to address the board. Since this is my last meeting as chair, and truthfully, I didn't really know what to say to you guys today, but really what I wanted to say was thank you. You guys voted me, and I really appreciate always your thoughtfulness and your help, even when you disagreed with me on a lot of decisions, because I disagreed a lot with Yvonne on a lot of issues. But I know that you were always there to help, and I really appreciated everything you guys ever did for me. And I wanted to give a special thanks to Maritza, who I know without her help I would not have ever been able to become chair, and also actually to Mr. Maloof, who nominated me for the first time as chair, and Mr. Sanabria, you seconded that motion. So I really thank all of you, and I think we have a quick agenda today, hopefully, and we'll get out of here in record time. Mr. Director, you have a report?
Actually, the approval of minutes is first.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. If we could have a motion, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing no objections, item passes. Mr. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Quick report today. As many of you know, the Chamber of Commerce, Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce, held their 2012 Goals Conference last month. MDX participated actively in discussing the path forward. Again, the emphasis was funding for transportation and the movement of freight and goods throughout the community. So keep that theme in mind as I continue forward. MDX continues to work with the Turnpike, Orlando Expressway Authority, and Tampa Hillsborough on the framework for a consolidated back office. If everything goes well, next month through committee and then the chair and then the board will bring some level of a memorandum of understanding or agreement to move forward with that, and it will discuss the framework. On the 18th and 19th, I had the opportunity, actually the privilege, of participating in a Global Cities Initiative, which is a joint project of the Brookings Institute and J.P. Morgan. It was chaired by former mayor of Chicago, Richard Daley. The focus of this, and this was one of 4 cities selected in 2012 as a global city, the focus was to discuss how goods move and how it plays a part in the global economy. In your packets, in your envelopes or folders, I put a copy of a report, and I also put part of the agenda of what was discussed. But I think the state of Florida is well positioned in this. Miami primarily, Director Johnson from the seaport spoke about the various initiatives that are happening to prepare ourselves for a global economy. And we also met Juan Flores, who has been appointed the statewide freight and logistics coordinator for the state of Florida, and that's an initiative of Governor Rick Scott. So we are in line in supporting the economy and supporting the global marketplace. And obviously, MDX plays a big role because State Road 836, State Road 112 are major components of that. And ultimately, our 920, or Gratney and 874 will play a big role on how goods move throughout this community. Just recently, and it's also in your package, just recently I was invited by the American Association of Civil Engineers to attend the roundtable discussion on infrastructure at the White House. I'll be leaving tonight. The focus of the discussion is the role of small businesses in transportation. They've asked me to discuss best practices at the authority, best practices in the state, and how the federal government can assist in creating jobs in the marketplace for small businesses. Although Miami-Dade Expressway Authority does not get federal funding, and I'll make that really clear, the opportunity for federal funding stands and is still there. And my pitch tomorrow will be use agencies like ours, and there's many of us around the country, to leverage the federal dollar to continue to develop the job market in a global economy. So I will have a thorough presentation at the next board meeting on how this goes tomorrow, but you'll read about it because it's also a publicity. You'll be reading about a lot of this stuff tomorrow. Now, before I conclude, board members, I asked Alfred Lirigados Juan Toledo to give a very short presentation update on Central Boulevard. As you know, we're in the middle of the reconstruction of Central Boulevard going into Miami International Airport. Earlier this month, we sat down with the aviation director and gave him a briefing. The significance of the presentation and why I asked him to be brief also, there's going to be a major traffic shift coming up in the summer, and it's important that not only you as board members, but everyone who's watching and is going to listen to this board meeting in the coming month are aware of that move. So if I can ask Juan Toledo, he's going to be very brief. The presentation is loaded on your computers.
I think your mic's off, Juan. Arranca el micrófono.
Mr. Board members, my name is Juan Toledo. I'm the Assistant Director of Engineering for MDX. And as Mr. Rodriguez said earlier, early this month, late May, we gave a briefing to Director Abreu, who requested an update on the Central Boulevard project, primarily to get a feel for where we are in the project today and what's coming up. So we put together a few slides just to go over, where we are in the project right now and where we're going to be over the next few months. Obviously, this is a project that we're working together with DOT and the airport and the county, Community Asphalt, BCC Engineering, and Parsons is the CI on the job. Major goal of this project is to improve the capacity and operational improvements along Central Boulevard, and we're doing this by the introduction of service and access roads adjacent to Central Boulevard for be able to separate commercial and vehicle traffic from passenger vehicle traffic. So today we're actually in the process of completing phase 1 of the construction, and what you see in yellow is the actual work zone areas, which is we're currently building out what will be the future permanent envelope of the eastbound traffic that would exit the airport terminal. And then on the bottom of the page, you see the improvements to Northwest 21st Street or Northwest 20th Street, which is the south access road for commercial vehicles within the airport zone. And we're currently on the final stage of that. We expect to perform the next traffic shifts at the end of July, early August. This is just to give you an idea, an aerial view of where we're at. You see to the right of the screen the bridges and all the earthwork that's being moved for the future eastbound Central Boulevard lanes. Phase 2 is when we actually shift all traffic onto the new eastbound, the permanent eastbound traffic lanes, and then we shift westbound traffic onto the existing eastbound Central Boulevard. And you see in yellow are the areas where we'll start working on the permanent westbound lanes with the new bridges for Perimeter Road that would go over Perimeter Road now, because as you know, in this project, where Perimeter Road used to go over Central Boulevard, now Perimeter Road will come under Central Boulevard. And here's just an aerial a rendering of what the work zone areas would look like. To the right is the eastbound Central Boulevard lanes, and then we'll go ahead and shift all westbound traffic to the existing eastbound today, which is in between the two big yellow swaths. And then all the work that'll go on in between is the building out the future westbound lanes. In phase 3, we go ahead and shift all permanent westbound traffic back onto the final configuration, and then we'll start building out in what you see in the yellow swath is the service ramps onto to exit and to come onto Central Boulevard, which primarily will service the industrial area to the east of the interchange or of Lejeune. But that's where we actually come in and finish building off Perimeter Road, all the access roads, and finalize all the construction around that area for the Central Boulevard project. And then finally in phase 4 is completing phase 3. And then as you see that yellow swath on the top of the screen, that's the north access road. That's the piece that today we're using for maintenance of traffic, for local traffic for the airport, for all the people, for the employees, all the service roads, all the service vehicles that service all the different buildings to the north of Central Boulevard. That's where all the traffic is today. So in the final phase, we'll build out the north corridor phase, or the north access road. And of course, just a quick shout out to the Miami Heat. Always good to do. And,
Thank you, Juan.
With that, Mr. Wortman?
Okay. A timeline, basically. You told us what's going on, but about approximately when, I know the stuff going on this next week, whatever, but phase 2, phase 3, when's that going to be? When's everything going to be done?
Okay, going back to phase 1, which is the current phase, we expect to do the first major traffic shift, which is to get to phase 2, which is, let me just get this on that one. To go to phase 2, where we're actually shift all eastbound traffic to the new configuration, and then westbound to the existing eastbound, we're expecting to have that shift in late July, early August. We're hoping for late July. That's the current schedule. We're in the summer rainy seasons. We're hoping that won't be a significant impact, but we're estimating mid to end of summer we'll be in phase 2. Phase 2, we're estimating, is going to take approximately anywhere between 8 to 9 months. So we're hoping that by spring of next year, we should be well into phase 3. And then since phase 3 is the construction of that middle piece, and those phases are normally out of the way of the major Central Boulevard traffic, we're anticipating that the phase 3 and phase 4 construction would end in summer of 2013. So we're basically looking at final completion of this job sometime in summer of next year.
Mr. Chairman,
Absolutely.
on another matter, Mr. Toledo or Mr. Luergados, I travel frequently to the intersection of 878 exit at 107th Avenue Southwest by Miami-Dade Junior College. I do it almost on a daily basis, and I have found that the traffic works very smooth, and I've never seen an accident there since the initial issues that we had. Could you put us up to date as to if that's the case in terms of the statistics?
Yes, Board Member Sanabria. We continue to monitor the project limits. We haven't had any issues on Killian itself. I keep on hearing also the same comments on traffic flow. As always happens, when you first open a project and nobody remembers how bad it was prior to it, it's flowing particularly well, even Killian itself and 874 southbound itself. In addition to basically final striping is almost in, and we're basically almost out of the project zone completely, with the exception, I think, of a couple of stripes here and there. But we're basically out of the area, and we're just wrapping up last 2 work orders in landscaping, and we're fully committed to finish that fairly soon.
That's a very complex design, and you have mastered it, and I want to commend you personally from one who commutes at that intersection. And I know there were initial hiccups, but I'm telling you, in terms of engineering, it's a fantastic masterwork. So congratulations, you've done a great job on that.
Thank you, sir, and I'll pass it along to the team as well. They deserve a lot of credit.
Mr. Maloof.
Mr. Baloof?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I happen to be fortunate enough to be at the engineering policy and planning workshop that FDOT held last week in Orlando. There's 1,600 people there talking about designs, what's working, what's not. More importantly, what's not, and lessons learned. And they cited MDX's roads, the system. Collectively, the system, but specifically 874 and 878, as engineering models, as corridor models, as system models that FDOT should look very closely at and emanate to the extent they can. Well, I mean, FDOT's been around a long time, and just like any profession, you learn, and they realize that because it was actually an FDOT employee that made that comment. It was on the record, and it was to all of the leading folks that are designing, our systems around the state. And they talked about design all the way down to the landscaping. And it was very, very good to, it was a pleasure to hear that. And it was gratifying to see that it's recognized not only just locally, but throughout the state. So I just wanted to make that comment on that staff, that the agency is doing a phenomenal job, and staff especially should be commended for keeping their eye on the ball and being very diligent about these projects. I just have a question for the. Did you want to make a comment? I just have a question for the director. As someone takes a lot of pride in this project at Central Boulevard and the road, and working with FDOT in the airport. As many of you know, working with the aviation departments, just to be, just let's just say it can be challenging at times because it's a massive program. I particularly am very proud of the staff's course of action, and not only planning the way that this project was planned, but also how it was designed and executed. And from what my understanding is, the cost that was, how much was, as a result of the method that was utilized to procure that, how many millions of dollars was saved in procuring and letting this project
Mr.
through
Maloof,
execution?
we took advantage of the market at the time. It was a design build. Both the Florida Department of Transportation and MDX benefited from that, and I think it was the tune of almost $30 million less than the engineer's estimate.
That's correct.
Percentage-wise, how much was out of the job?
Oh, that's about a 40% reduction on the project cost. But I got to tell you, Board Member Maloof, and I know the aviation department, and the project teams here, it's been a tremendous effort by all the parties involved, because this is the front door to our community. Can't mess up here. And the aviation department, the project team, the design build team, the contractors, CEI, our staff have been incredible in working this. With that said, the fun begins now, because now is where the traffic shifts. We've been working outside of traffic, and that's why we wanted to make this short presentation now and alert everyone to how this traffic's going to move. But we've got a very good working relationship with the aviation department.
Great job.
Thank you. And
Go ahead, Mayor.
First of all, I join Mr. Maloof and all of your congratulations, Gonzalo, yours, and the chairs, for the wonderful work that staff is doing at MDX. I think that FDOT and the aviation department in Miami-Dade County have never been better run. So I think the combination, that's not to say that it's not tough and difficult to work with aviation, but I think that District 6 and the airport and MDX, and excuse me for for Pride, joining the Pride Parade here, but it really is led by MDX, and I think MDX is really to be commended for the quality work that's being done. And I want to take also this opportunity, Mr. Chairman. I think there are a lot of things going on in Washington that show that there's a change in the air for transportation. I think we're going to end up with a two-year bill. I think that those people that were opposed to such things as the I-95 speed lanes are now less opposed and are welcoming. And you saw the article in the newspaper that they may even go up to charging $9 or $9.25, which is higher than California. The highest in the country right now is in Orange County, and the usage of those lanes is just unbelievable. I think it's important to point out that it has nothing to do with money, because we really, I think, Mr. Secretary, it might be a good idea. I personally think that you guys have been a little bit short in taking credit for a wonderful job, because people are under the misconception that this is about money. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with efficiency and the fact that we're putting 30% and 40% more cars through. We're decongesting. The people that are not paying are traveling 10, 15 miles an hour faster than they were before. They get there quicker, so it's a win-win-win everywhere. And I think it happens to be important. But Mr. Director, since you will be in the White House tomorrow and you'll be able to express your opinion and our opinion as to where the future is headed, and I really think that that Miami-Dade County is really an example, one of the most congested cities in America, and yet we're beginning to see some light in progress, not only in transportation but in transit issues that are also beginning to work their way through. And I really think that if we all work together, forgetting partisanship, which is hard to do in an election year, but I think we can make some major headways in this next year. And I'm personally optimistic that I think things are going to be working in our favor. But I think it's important to stress that user pay is the only way that is really clearly open in the future.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? No. Mr. Martinez, nothing?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to conclude, really quick, I want to remind everybody that on Friday, and thank you, Secretary Pago, for hosting us on Friday, there will be a tour of the 826, 836 interchange. For those of you that have already scheduled it with Maria Luisa, great. And if you haven't, let her know. It's going to be Friday morning. If you haven't been out to the project site, it is phenomenal to take a look at. So thank you, Gus. And finally, I update the board on the progress of one of our own, Alfred Lurigados. I believe tomorrow it'll be official that he made the short list, final three, for the executive director's position in Orlando Orange County Expressway Authority. So wish him the best. Let's see.
I have a question. Who do I have to call to make sure he doesn't get the job?
No.
Oh, he's going to do a great job.
He's going to do a great job, and it'll be great for them if they can get him. It will be great for Central Florida. With that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Is that system bigger than ours?
It has more miles than ours, yes. It's about the same amount of traffic, but it has more miles. It's a bigger system.
I'll tell you, ever since I got on the board, Alfred has always been a very helpful guy and a guy who is always there to answer any questions. I think you'll make a great executive director. Hopefully you'll get that.
Agreed. I win either way, sir.
So, I wanted to tell you, Mr. Director, I got a call the other day from a councilwoman in Hialeah, and there was a radio show going on that apparently it was on Spanish radio, and apparently they were going after the agency pretty hard. It was Coronel Matia Faria. saying things that we wouldn't allow people to speak here. So, I mean, I'm just saying it's something that maybe you may want to reach out with some of the folks that do our
will.
outreach and figure out what exactly is going on.
I will reach
Because
out
it
to
was
the
it was lasted for about an hour or so, this thing, so. Just to
It
let
was
you
the
know.
weekend that it was announced that toll rates were going to increase on the turnpike.
Right.
And I got many calls assuming, and I'll make this very clear, assuming that because the turnpike tolls were going up, MDXs were also going up. Despite what the media said, despite that it was very clear in the newspaper articles, the word out on the street was that we were going to follow suit. So I had to be very clear and say that we weren't. But that's where that conversation
Right.
started at.
Right, perfect. I think we are up to the general counsel's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be very brief. I do have 2 items, and I have to say that it's rare that I get to give very happy news, but I wanted to let you know that on April 20th, MDX filed its motion for fees and costs in the community asphalt case, roughly $24,000 in costs and $133,000 in attorney's fees. Community responded by filing a motion to strike that request for fees and costs, and the judge denied the motion to strike. So we remain as the prevailing party. Shortly after that last week, Executive Director Rodriguez met with some of the principals with Community Asphalt, and very shortly after that, both MDX and Community Asphalt executed a joint stipulation to dismiss the appeal and the cross appeal. So the substantive case is over. In just a minute, Mr. And so the stipulation makes clear that we have retained the judge's order that we will be awarded fees and costs, and I'm sure that we'll be getting an offer from that. Once the Third District Court of Appeal enters its order dismissing the appeal and cross appeal, it's back. Then hopefully we'll be able to settle fees and costs, and we'll finally bring that to this board for resolution. And Mr. Martinez, I think you're bursting at the seams if you have a comment on that.
No, you already answered the comment I want to know. I want to make sure that we were going to get our fees. That's really my primary concern here. I
Okay.
didn't want us to, in any way, shape, or form, from what I considered from the very beginning a frivolous lawsuit, for us to not get our fees back from this case. So
And I fully expect that we will be able to amicably resolve
Mr.
those.
Chairman, I think once again, we have to congratulate our very able counsel for an excellent,
Herculean, yes.
well done job. And Mr. Martinez, for your persistence in staying the course.
my absolute passion to
And
totally
absolutely.
against
And
any
it
passion, any
influenced
settlement
a
on this
lot.
case.
Well, it influenced a lot of us, and I think it was obviously the right decision.
This is a tremendous team we're on here. And the beauty of this board, and I've said this in the 4 years I've been here, is we agree to disagree, and we all bring such different opinions. And the thing I admire most of all, Mr. Mayor, is that we respect each other's opinion and we listen. And sometimes we defer to your expertise, sometimes we defer to Felix's expertise, obviously quite often to Mr. Pago's expertise when it comes to transportation, and Mr. Sanavia's. That is what makes this board special, is that we do listen to each other, even if we don't agree with each other.
Well, this time you were right, sir.
According to my wife, it's the only time this year, so it's okay.
And I think the important thing is that I think everyone's ready to move forward and put all of this behind us. So I think that's critical.
I think, did you want to ask a
Yeah,
question?
we all know, we recognize our Pam Leslie's talent and contribution, and because of that, I'm going to ask the following question, which is, where are we with her plan to do the drop, and or you want to brief me individually, or what do you want to do? But
I will state it for the board. As during my evaluation, that was a question that was asked of me. Ms. Leslie and I have met. We've outlined some important issues. Next step, she's going to be calling each of you and asking what you'd like to see in a general counsel, and we're going to start preparing the framework for her replacement and get that prepared. We're going to start that process in January because her drop is next year, August. And if we blink, it's here, and we need to be prepared. And that was the
You
direction.
have 13 months.
We've got 13 months, Mr. Ferre. So we have had that conversation, and we are starting to lay the...
The floor is yours still, sir.
No, I'm sure that Mr. Martinez, others have comments. I'm just.
I can't tell you how sad it's going to be when Ms. Leslie leaves. I have truly enjoyed working with her. She not only is extremely knowledgeable, and I know it's early, but I want to just get it out there now. That it has been a true pleasure working with her. I look forward to the next 13 months, which, based on what I've experienced with my kids, it's going to go like this.
Yes, you're absolutely...
Can you change your ID? I mean, there's.
Can
Can you
we've got some friends in
find
legislation. We can
another
change it.
identity? All right.
We'll work with
We're
Gus.
we're working on a plan to move forward.
Yes, we are.
But thank you, and I appreciate the kind comments. And after that, hopefully you'll bear with me on the second part. As I promised last month, we are going to do very quick, very small ethics moments so that we spread it out. And so the next item that I wanted to talk to you about, and thinking about this subject, one of the things that really touches me personally, because I don't know if you all realize this, that not all organizations do this, but every time that you gather together as a board, we stand side by side, put our hand over our hearts, and we pledge allegiance to the flag that represents this great country that's so important to us. And I find that to be a very touching moment that we engage in because we all have a common purpose there. And one of the things that occurs to me is that oftentimes we say in English, you know, it goes without saying. And it's important, and I'm told that se cae de la mata is the term in Spanish, and I've practiced it. But it is important, even if it is obvious, that we do say what is important to us sometimes. And so in our ethics policy, we do have a requirement that all of our board members affirm that they will abide by the various ethics provisions that apply to this body. And so in your packet, you do have a written affirmation. We have a number of new board members. We have some that have been recently reappointed, and congratulations to you on your reappointments. And so if you will execute that affirmation and then provide that to the executive secretary, and then we'll have that in our records, but again, it's more than just making sure that the files are complete. Sometimes it is very important that we do, on the record, say what things are important to us, and this says that our ethics policy and that we will abide by all of those are important to us. So please do execute those. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Are there any questions to our council? Hearing none, we go to the MPO representatives report. I believe Maritza's on the phone.
You know,
Is there an MPO representatives report?
there was no MPO meeting this month, so we'll defer that to next month.
We're going now to the highlight of the reports, the treasurer's report. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How about them heat?
There you go.
That concludes my report. No. No, we got good news. The overall revenues were $93,000 above the projected month, and $11,500 above the year. The total fee revenues was $140,000 above the forecast, but it was $157,000 below the year-to-date forecast. The investment income is $93,000. That's a tough thing to do nowadays, as you well know. So you're handling some city funds above the $2.5 million forecast. On the expense side, we've done a great job, thanks to Executive Director and staff. They're $46,000 below a $3.4 million budget. And the interest expense was $431,000 below a $60 million year-to-date, because of the variable components of debt that changed quite a bit over the last 6 months. So the net revenues was $2.1 million, or 9.8% above the year-to-date overall forecast. So overall, it's a real rosy picture. Great job by Marie and Javier and everybody else. So that concludes my report.
Are there any questions to the treasurer? I know that at one of the finance meetings, I think maybe 2 months ago, we were discussing, Mr. Sanabria, and I know Marie might be able to answer, the issue of refinancing bonds and how we were going to do that. I don't know if you have an update on that.
We will get to that if you're allowed, but before that, I'd like to have Carlos Fernandez Guzman talk to us about the local bank preference selection process that he's been entrusted with. So you have a minute?
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been working with Marie on this particular item, and the local bank initiative is now pretty much completed as a recommendation goes. What we'll present to the committee, Finance Committee, once we meet, is the components that will include ownership percentage by a local bank. It'll also include the Bauer rating for safety and soundness, which I think is critical when you're dealing with the small community banks. It'll also include in the component a CRA standing rating, and will deliver some guidance on regulatory standing as well as the overall ability to service the institutions from a distribution service offering and service mechanism perspective. So it's pretty much ready to go. We'll present it at the Finance Committee and then bring it before the board if Finance Committee sees fit to move it forward.
That's awesome.
And Mr. Chairman, on the refinance, at the next Budget and Finance Committee in July, we will be taking to the committee the request to give us that authorization to move forward. So that'll be in the July committee meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
Do you want to preview now or anything?
No, I just had the question of, the status as to what was going on, and to see what was happening. That's it.
Good.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Would you bring us up to date on the rating agencies and what's happening there?
You want Maria to do that?
Mayor Ferre, staff and management and our financial advisors met with 2 of the 3 rating agencies in the month of June.
Sorry?
2 of the rating agencies MDX met with during the month of June. We met with Fitch, and they released a report last week, and we had a A- with a positive outlook, and we were at that rating for 2 years. On the 3rd review process, they're required to take action, which was our 3rd review process. And the action they took was they left us at an A-, but they removed the outlook from positive to stable. And I will tell you that in 2010, we were one of a handful of toll authorities in the industry that actually had a positive outlook. Unfortunately, the rating agencies are negative on surface transportation. As it relates to Moody's, we did meet with them as well. They didn't give us any indication it has to go through a credit committee process. They're going to take a little bit longer due to some of the things that they're working on with other issuers. Probably sometime at the end of July, we'll see the report out from Moody's.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Hearing none. You're done with your report, yes, Mr. Treasurer? Excellent. Committee reports are part of the record. We'll go into the consent agenda. Is there a motion or anything to add to the consent agenda?
Second.
Hearing no objections, the item passes. We'll go on to regular agenda, item 9A.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a policy for advanced acquisition of property. We have gone to the Operations Committee twice on this issue, and to the Budget and Finance Committee once, and the reason that we did come back to Operations, we had some very good suggestions from Board Member Fernandez Guzman that made a couple of tweaks, and that's noted in the copy that you have in your packet in red line. What this will enable us to do, we hope, and it's really a bit of a pilot to try it out, is where we have an what we call opportunity buys. If there's something being offered on the market or a property that's distressed, whatever, that we can take advantage right now of perhaps some lower real estate prices, and also in the process avoid some of the attorney's fees and costs, a lot of the attorney's fees and costs that you would run into if you're going through an eminent domain process. So this is just our initial start to try to do some advanced acquisition of property should the opportunities avail themselves to us.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Yes,
Go ahead. And then Ms. Soler McKinley.
I'll defer to the lady.
Ms. Soler McKinley.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Yes, this was discussed at the Operations Committee. It was voted on unanimously, and I commended you on a job well done. I'm a big believer in buying at a good rate, and when we can purchase property that we know is going to be something that we'll utilize in the future, we can get better prices, and that's the smart way to do it. So the Operations Committee voted unanimously to move forward on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to know, basically, where it says here that it be no more than 25% of the contingency funds budgeted in the work program. What could that dollar amount be?
Well, whatever the contingency budget is for the particular year, because we don't have a line item for the advanced acquisition, where that budget is
No,
available.
I understand all that. I just want a dollar amount.
I'm told it's about $7 million.
What is
That
it?
would be a cap.
This work program is $7 million.
Right, it changes.
So it'd be 25% of 7 million? And that'd be a capped
No.
amount of money it
No,
can be
the money
expended?
is 7 million, right?
I'm sorry.
I think the total is 7 million.
I know, but I'm trying to get to the question, so
But the
if you will-
percent, I think
if you bear with me for...
did you say the percent was 7 million, or it was
Well-
25% of 7 million?
You want, take a time out.
Ask your question.
It's at 7 million, 25% of 7 million, that whatever that amount is, that's the cap amount of monies that can be expended, correct? Under this?
Yes, board members, it is 25% of the contingency, which changes year to year. This year, it's roughly 7 million. So for the committee,
2 million bucks, a little under 2 million bucks, right? All right, the other thing is, it needs to be held for 3 years. Is that the idea, or can be 3 years in advance? Is that the policy?
No, what is in the policy is that there would be a certification by the engineer that MDX, in his belief or her belief, would need that property within the next 5 to 10 years, that we would not hold it any longer than 10 years, and that was one of the recommendations that Board Member Fernandez Guzman made, because his concern was that we not be out there being a land baron, acquiring a lot of properties, taking it off the tax rolls, and not actively including that in a transportation project.
Okay, the point, Mr. Chairman, that I want to make, and you made a career out of real estate deals yourself, so you're very aware of what this could be. We're not in the real estate business per se. It's only if it's useful to the intent of the authority. So what I'm trying to point out is perhaps this should be approved today. I don't have a problem with it, but it should go back and have another way to disengage ourselves from holding properties above a certain term if they're not useful to the authorities' projected road work or whatever the case may be.
Mr.
Okay,
Chairman, can I respond to Mr. Sanabria? We discussed that at our Operations Committee meeting, and one of the things that we discussed and why we accepted Mr. Guzman's tenure is because it takes approximately 10 years to build a road from the moment that you designate it to final completion. So that's why we went with a 10-year. So I don't think that the 10-year is going to create land baron or any banking that is unnecessary, but it was a practical number that goes with a practical process.
I'm in full agreement with that. I'm just saying after 10 years, if we still haven't, we haven't used it, there should be a way to dispose of that property and recapitalize monies that we have spent on that land. So what I'm saying is let's approve this today if everybody agrees, and let's go back and fine tune that language so we have an exit on that.
I believe the language accommodates that. The
Yeah, I
language
think
says
so
that
too. That's
without
why-
specific review. So
Exactly.
what you cannot let the property sit for a longer than 10-year period without specifically re-identifying need and hold pattern. So you're able to extend it, you're just not able to let it sit beyond the period of 5 to 10 years.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfect. Yeah. A motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
The motion, there's a second.
I'll second.
This motion, there's a couple of seconds.
Couple
Any
seconds.
objections? Hearing none, the item passes. We move on to the item B, which is the election of the authority officers. Traditionally, the general counsel takes over.
Mr. Chairman,
and so
before we do that, I noticed that we have an FBT Team Florida meeting and then the IBTTA meeting in September. And I would urge, especially the new members, to really make an effort. Sometimes these things are repetitious, but it really is an educational process. And even if you go for one day or for an afternoon, it's worth your driving up 3.5 hours and attending some of these sessions.
And I would encourage all members to attend this year since we're hosting in Orlando. So it would be great to have everybody there in support of our host committee.
We will go ahead, Ms. Leslie, the show is yours.
Yeah, and
Mr.
who knows, if we're fortunate enough to go, perhaps by that time, our friend Alfred will be lucky enough to
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we open this portion of the meeting to elect the governing board officers for the Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, and again, I do appreciate the very kind words both from Mr. Martinez and the rest of the board, but I just wanted to also say, as I like to take this opportunity each year, it's been a tremendous privilege, and again, just a lot of fun to be your general counsel, so thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me review real quickly the process that we go through for the election of officers. And I think before we get any further, if we could just confirm, I think we do have a couple of members that are on the telephone just to be sure that we have open lines and everybody can hear everyone. If you are on the telephone, would you please take your phone off mute and let us know that you are there and can hear us?
We are on the phone and we can hear you, but you're difficult to hear.
I'll try to speak louder, Ms. Gutierrez. Thank you.
And Robert Holland is on as well. Shelley Fano is on as well.
Okay. And Mr. Avila, are you on the phone? I believe we lost Mr. Avila. So we have Ms. Smith-Wano, Mr. Holland, and Ms. Gutierrez on the phone. To begin with, I will open the floor for nominations for each board office. We will begin with the Office of Authority Chair. Remind you that you can nominate yourself or someone else, and you need not be present to either nominate or be elected. After the nominations for a particular office are closed, if a nominee chooses, they may make a statement regarding their candidacy, or they may distribute a written statement that would be part of the record and provided to the Executive Secretary. I have had one question submitted prior to this meeting, and it is to be directed to the candidates for Authority Chair, and I will pose that to each candidate in alphabetical order. There will also be an opportunity prior to voting if there are any of the members present that would like to make any comments on any of the candidacies prior to balloting, that they may do that. The votes are by written ballot. You have those in your folder. You are required to note your name on the ballot that you cast, and you will fold those over and provide them to the Executive Secretary at the appropriate time. As far as our members that are appearing by electronic media technology, you may submit your vote either by, after we have received all of the paper ballots, you can state it verbally. You can send it in by email or fax. You have been provided those numbers, but I will reiterate that the fax number is area code 305-637-2536, or you may email Maria Luisa at mlnavialobo@mdxway.com if you choose not to make a verbal vote. But we will ask you to hold your verbal vote until after we have received all of the paper ballots. If on the first ballot no one receives a majority, the nominee with the fewest votes will be dropped from the balloting, and then we will proceed with the second ballot. Again, let me remind everybody that you are statutorily required, if you are present, that you must vote, that you may not abstain from voting. Any questions about the process before we proceed? Okay, I would like to note, I know Ms. Gutierrez is on the telephone. She did include a written nomination for authority chair, and you do have that in your packet, where she nominated Mayor Ferre for authority chair. So we do have one nomination that has been submitted in writing. Ms. Gutierrez, do you want to make that verbally?
Given the communication is so bad, if you can please very hard state here into the record. Hello?
I think she wants somebody to read it into the record.
If you can read my statement into the record.
I'll be glad to. This was what Ms. Gutierrez submitted. She says, "Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to nominate a visionary and a man that has the depth and wealth of understanding on all issues relating to transportation, government, and public service. Please join me in voting and nominating for chair of MDX Mayor Maurice Ferre. I would like to urge all members to vote for Mayor Ferre. MDX needs an independent, seasoned leader like Mayor Ferre. Mayor Ferre has demonstrated time after time his commitment to MDX and transportation. We are not in grade school where everyone gets a chance to write their name on the chalkboard. We need an independent voice to lead this board." And so that is Ms. Gutierrez's nomination. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Maloof has seconded the nomination of Mayor Ferre. Do I have any other nominations for chair? Mr. Maloof?
I have a comment relative to that motion.
I'm sorry.
I have a comment relative to the motion that's on the table.
There is no motion. We have a nomination.
Nomination, excuse me, nomination.
Okay. Until we have, everyone has had an opportunity to make a nomination. Mr. Wortman?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Yvonne Solar McKinley.
All right. We have a second nomination for authority chair, Ms. Soler McKinley. Do we have a second for that nomination?
I'll second it.
Mr. Lasarte has seconded the nomination for Ms. Soler McKinley as authority chair. We have two nominations, Mayor Ferre and Ms. Soler McKinley. Do we have any other nominations for authority chair? None shown. I'm going to close the nominations. At this time, I have one question that I have been asked to pose to both of the, to all of the nominees, and then I'll recognize anyone that has any other comments. The question that was received that, and I'll start in alphabetical order with you, Mr. Ferre. The question is, given your very busy professional schedule that you currently have, explain to the board how you will afford time to fulfill duties as chair of the authority.
Before that question is answered, excuse me, can whoever's on the phone, can you put your phone on mute because we're hearing all the background noises?
Is that better, Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Okay.
The other cell phones or office phones are on regular call, and it's very loud.
Okay. We're not hearing it on this end, Mr. Holland.
All right. The question obviously is very specific. In my case, since I just completed my 77th birthday last Saturday, and I obviously have plenty of time. I dedicate my public service now is limited to transportation boards. I serve, as you all know, on the Florida Transportation Commission. I serve on the International Transportation Systems, ITS, which is an amazing organization. I serve also on Team Florida, and of course I serve on MDX. And I dedicate a lot of time to that because I think they're all interrelated and they are important. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll take this so I don't have to expand further. I certainly want to thank Maritza for her very, very thoughtful nomination of me, and Mr. Maloof and Gus Pago for their for their second. I also want to thank the governor's office for their encouragement and their interest in my striving to become chair of MDX. I've been in public service now for 46 years. I first ran for the House and served in the House in 1966. So, and I plan to keep on going at least till I have 50 years of service, and then I think I'll call it a day. But I certainly would like to be chair of MDX and look forward to the opportunity. I also want to say that I recognize that Yvonne is an exceptional city manager, and however the vote comes out, I'm sure that MDX will be in good hands.
Thank you, Mayor Ferre. Mr. Maloof, I believe that you wanted to be recognized.
The question that you posed, was that to both candidates or just one?
They'll each have an opportunity to respond. Yes.
My comment is relative to the nominations of both candidates. So if it's is Ms. Solar McKinley going to answer that question as well? Or you're not?
I'm sorry. Do you have a procedural question, Mr. Maloof?
Well, yeah, no. I mean, yeah.
No and yes. No and yes. Figure it out.
Yes or no?
I'll do what I can to answer.
No, it's not a procedural question, Madam Chair. It's relative to the rationale of my nomination, second of the nomination, and a comment relative to the candidates. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. But I'll be happy to put that on the record.
Okay.
The reason I was going to nominate Mr. Ferre, and in this case, second the nomination, was because Maritza, first of all, beat me to it by sending the nomination in writing. But as someone who's also in public service and have been for over a couple of decades now, certainly not, I can't compare to fill the shoes of the Mayor Ferre and his service and history. I believe public service is all about timing, and I believe I like both candidates and know both candidates well and have a fondness for both candidates. But I personally feel that public service is about timing, and I feel personally that Mayor Ferre has put his time, an exceptional and extraordinary amount of energy and time in the community, and I feel he's at this juncture deserving enough, as are both, to be chair. And considering the mayor sharing his 77th birthday celebration with us, I would like to see his vote be a unanimous vote. And so I was hoping that to get this on the record and to express my support for everybody on the board who wants to serve, and I was hoping to do that prior to taking the nominations when you didn't take our comments previously, but I feel timing is everything. I feel the timing suits Mayor Ferre the best. He not only in addition to his long and distinguished service, because he's the elder and most distinguished statesman of the board, I feel he's most deserved of this position. And for that, I hope that the board, those running, would perhaps take that into consideration and allow the board to support him unanimously.
Okay. Mr. Maloof, our process now is that because we do have two nominations on the floor, that Ms. Solar McKinley and if you would like me to repeat the question that did come in, which is essentially, given the very busy demands that our candidates have on their time, if you would explain for the board how you would make time to fulfill the duties as authority chair.
MDX is an integral part of my public service, and I think that my commitment to MDX has been proven in me writing into my contract with the City of Doral. As part of my contract, it was approved for me to participate fully in any and all MDX activities. So I think I've dedicated 7 years and taking nothing from Mayor Ferre, because he's my idol. And I'm lagging behind you in age, but not too much. I would never admit to that publicly, but I will not say. No, I'm 63 and I'm proud of it. So I'm there, and I hope to fulfill my 77th birthday as you, with the dedication that you have done. But I too, this is my last year on MDX. I don't think I'm going to be dedicating another 4 years, because I have other things to do. So as much as I would love for it to be unanimous, I would also love to chair MDX for my last year.
Thank you, Ms. Soler-McKinley. Do any other members, either present or on the phone, wish to make any statement? Mr. Snobbery, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very difficult for me to decide among two people I consider friends, and whatever I do or whoever I vote for, I want you to understand that it's just that, a vote. It's no projection how I feel about you as a person, because either of you are highly qualified to lead the Expressway Authority forward. And the other question that I have is, Madam Chair, is how many people are actually voting today? Is it 10 or 11?
I believe we have 12 on the line. Mr. Avia is the only one, I think.
I'm on the line.
Oh, Mr. Avia is back. Okay, so we have 13.
Who's on the line?
This is Jose Avia.
So we have 12 people on?
We have a total of 13.
We have 13
yes,
people.
Sir. Full complement, yes,
Okay,
sir.
so that there's no, okay, I understand, because my question was going to be in a tie, what would be the procedure, but I guess it's not necessary.
Hopefully not.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other members that would like to make any comments? Let me be sure that any of our members that are on the telephone, does anybody want to make any comments?
No.
All right, very good. With that, we will close the floor for comments, and if you will mark your ballots. Again, remember to put your name on your ballot and then provide it to the Executive Secretary.
Pam, since I'm on the road, can I vote out loud?
Ms. Gutierrez, if you would wait just one moment, we're getting the paper ballots delivered to the Executive Secretary, and then once those are done, then we will have verbal votes from the members that are on the telephone.
We'll dance later.
Madam Secretary, do you have 10 ballots? Or I guess it's 9. 9? Okay, all right. I will take the members that are on the telephone. If we can go by Ms. Smith-Fano. If you're on the line, could you give us your vote, please? I have her vote. She had, okay, thank you. She has sent that in. Thank you very much. Mr. Avia?
Yes.
Do you have a vote that you would like to state verbally, sir?
Sure. Mr. Ferre?
Thank you. Mr. Holland?
Yvonne Solar McKinley.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. And is that everybody that we have on the phone? Oh, Ms. Gutierrez, I'm sorry.
Mayor Ferre.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Ready?
All right, Madam Secretary, if you would announce the vote, please.
Mr. Ferre has 8 votes. Mr. Solar McKinley has 5.
Thank you. Mayor Ferre is our chair for the 2012-2013 year. Congratulations, Mayor.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. May I say that I'm very grateful for the nomination and the second and the 8 votes. I understand those of you who voted for Yvonne. That's understandable, and I respect you for it, and I respect her, and look forward to working with all of you for this next year.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If we can move on to the office of Vice Chair of the Authority. The floor is now open for nominations. Mr. Maloof, would you like to make a nomination?
No. No.
Procedural question.
I'd like to know who wants to be vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Shelley
Okay.
Fano.
I'm going to second that nomination.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Shelley.
Nominate and then second it.
She's done a great job.
Okay. Ms. Soler McKinley, you nominated Ms. Smith-Fano.
Yes.
And Mr. Martinez seconded the motion.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other nominations? Mr. Sanabria?
I would like to make it by popular acclaim that Ms. Shelley Fano be proclaimed the vice chairman of MDX.
Okay. There being no other nominations, Ms. Smith-Fano has been nominated, and there is a motion that she be elected by acclamation by Mr. Sanabria. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Madam Counsel.
Yes,
If I may.
Yes, Ms. Gutierrez?
No, it's Shelley.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I am honored and I feel blessed. And Mayor Ferre, happy birthday and congratulations to you, and I look forward to working side by side.
All right. Thank you. Yes, please. We are required to vote by ballot.
Told you.
Yeah. If we can move on now to the Office of Treasurer, and the floor is now open for nominations for the Office of Treasurer of the Authority.
I'd like to nominate Gonzalo Sanabria.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, we have nomination of Mr. Sanabria by Mr. Lasarte and a second by Mr. Maloof. Do we have any other nominations for the Office of Treasurer? And I apologize, anybody on the telephone, do we have any further nominations?
Most definitely, it'd be an honor to serve again as a treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Sanabria.
And I appreciate your confidence.
If there are no further nominations for the office of treasurer, do I have a motion that Mr. Sanabria be elected? Mr. Wortman, thank you. A second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Okay. All in favor of Mr. Sanabria being elected by acclamation, signify by aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Gonzalo. I also look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When it's a proper time, I'd like to make some statements about our departing chair.
Okay, we do have 2 more offices that we do have to deal with, Mr. Sanabria. He's going to get you. The next office that we do have to elect is for Executive Secretary. This office is not required to come from the membership of the board. And I would now open the floor for nominations.
Maria Luisa.
Thank you, Mr.
I second the nomination.
We have a motion and a second. Do I have a motion that Ms. Navia Lobo be elected by acclamation?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Fourth.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Congratulations, Ms. Navia Lobo. We also, for the past 3 years, have been very fortunate to have Eileen to serve as our Assistant Secretary.
I'd like to make the motion. This is Shelley. I'd like to make the motion.
Second,
Thank you. And
by
Eileen,
proclamation.
by acclamation, all in favor? Thank
Aye.
you. Okay. Can't keep up with everybody.
And the last name?
But I think
Figueroa.
Figueredo or Figueroa? You were steering me in the wrong direction.
Pam, I
Yes,
think,
sir.
Pam, I think in the past when we've had let's say two people get nominated for chair and one wins, I know it's been the tradition that afterwards there'd be a motion to unanimously elect.
I'll make that motion.
So made,
The
yes.
motion is a second to unanimously appoint you as chair, Mayor.
Thank you. I
We
was
did.
hoping
I thought
that
we
would
had
happen,
said
and I
that.
appreciate it.
I thought we had said that.
There's a motion, there's a second.
Uh,
Hearing no objections.
Are there any objections that Mr. Ferre be elected chair by acclamation? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. Aye.
And congratulations to all of our new.
If I may
Members.
take a moment, Madam
I'll
Chair.
turn it back over to Mr. Lasarte.
Thank you. Just a few words, ladies and gentlemen, to appreciate how much Felix Lasarte has meant to the authority. He's a gentleman who's still young, but is old in the ways that he does things. He knows politics. He knows how to navigate the waters here in Dade County, and he has done nothing but excelled at his job as chairmanship. So please join me in a round of applause for the parting chair, Felix Lasarte.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a resolution that we do the same as basically what you said, and then reduce that to a resolution that we could present the next meeting. So, nice peaceful the last 2
How about
years.
a plaque?
Everyone working
How about a
together.
plaque? We can give him a plaque, too.
Plaque?
Yeah.
Plaque we could include. Is that, you have the budget, is there enough money in the budget for that?
Thank you very much.
You need to collect some of those tickets first.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, as every year, this is a process that used to be contentious, but this year, and like in the last few years, has been very civil, and I appreciate that. And my commitment and the staff's commitment to each and every one of you. You've elected a chairman, a vice chairman, and a treasurer to lead the board as a body forward legislatively. But our commitment as staff is that we will treat each and every one of you, as we have been in the past 5, 6 years, as long as I've been here, each and every one of you is our chair. And no issue and no question and no recommendation is small or out of place. And again, I extend that to each and every board member, new and old. And thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for your support, for your ear, and for having debates with me when we disagree. And I really appreciate it, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really been a pleasure and an honor to serve as your chair. I really appreciate it. I don't believe, are there any announcements or anything? I'll make it. There's a motion. Second. Hearing no objections, meeting's adjourned.
Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you. Congratulations to all the winners.
Good luck in Orlando.
Yeah, well. Everyone signs.
There's